Welcome to Science Week with Jane from Scoil Katrina Junior and with the Galway Science and Technology Festival. And I want to talk to you today about gravity. So there's a lot of interesting things about gravity, but we know quite a lot about gravity. But here are some easy investigations you can do with gravity. So I'm going to start off with 2 sheets of paper. Now you'll notice that these 2 sheets of paper are exactly the same. If I drop them, which sheet of paper do you think will land first? Point to the sheet of paper that you think will land first. You know this is a trick question. They both land at the same time. Now this time I want you to take the 2 sheets of paper, but I want you to scrunch one up into a ball. And here's my first question. Be careful. Which sheet of paper is heavier? Point to the sheet of paper that's heavier. Did you realise that was a trick question too? They're the same sheets of paper, so they're still exactly the same weight. But now, which one do you think will land more quickly if I drop them? I bet you got that right. Because it was the one that's rolled up into a ball lands faster. Why is that? Well, the one that is out flat like this, the air is pushing up against it, and that's called air resistance. And because of air resistance, the one that is flat takes longer to get to the ground than the ball shape. Now, here's something a little more surprising. I have 2 shapes that are almost the same. Are they the same weights? No, they're not. Which one do you think is heavier? Point to the heavier one. You were right. It's the stone. The stone is heavier than the ball of paper. If I drop these at the same time, which one do you think will land first? Will it be the stone because it's heavier? Will it be the paper because it's lighter? Or will they both land at the same time? What do you think? Have a look at this. Now I'm going to drop them from the same height. 3, 2, 1. Did you guess that? Did you guess that they were both going to land at exactly the same time? Do you think weight matters? Because these are 2 different weights. Do you think weight made any difference? Or do you think it was the air resistance? Because they are the same shape, the air pushes up on them in exactly the same way, and that's why they land at the same time. You can try this as well with 2 different bottles of water. Now this bottle has no water in it at all. It's empty. Well, it's not quite empty. It's full of... That's right, it's full of air. This one here is full of water. If I drop these at exactly the same time, which one do you think will land first? Point to the bottle of water that you think will land first. Will it be the heavy one? Will it be the light one? Or will they both land at exactly the same time? Well, they have the same shape, so air resistance will be acting on them in exactly the same way. Have a look at this. 3, 2, 1. That's right. They landed at exactly the same time because they're the same shape. So gravity is pulling them down, but it's pulling them down at the same rate because the air resistance is not working on them, because the air resistance is the same for both. Now, a long time ago, back in 1971, the astronauts were wondering what would happen if you dropped a hammer and a feather. Well, on Earth we know what's going to happen if you drop a hammer and a feather. Which one is heavier? Point to the heavier one. Which one do you think will land first? Point to the one that you think will land first. And let's try this out. There is gravity on Earth. There is air resistance on Earth. 3, 2, 1. Were you right? Of course you were. The hammer landed first. Now, if you went up to the moon, would there be gravity there? What do you think? Now think about it this way. When the astronauts are on the moon and they take a step on the moon, do they come back down again or do they float off into space? Yeah, you're right. They come back down again. Why is this? Because there is gravity on the moon. Not as much gravity as there is on Earth. It's only 1/6 of the amount of gravity, but there is gravity on the moon. We know that. Is there air on the moon? No, there isn't. That's why the astronauts wear their helmets. So there's no air, so there would be no air resistance. But there is gravity. Now, if there was no gravity on the moon and you let go a hammer and a feather, what would happen to them? They would float away. But there is gravity on the moon, so even on the moon, the hammer and the feather will fall and gravity will pull them down to the moon. But will one fall faster than the other? Because there's no air resistance. So the feather should not get caught up in the air because there is no air resistance. Well, this was tried. And in fact, you can go on your computer and you can look up the hammer and the feather experiment on the moon. And you will find out that on the moon, they fell at exactly the same time because there was gravity, but there was no air resistance. So they're interesting little tricks to try with gravity.